So let's take a look at this cosine law example. It says to find angle F to the nearest degree, and I've sketched the triangle from the question. So I'm trying to find angle F, that would be this one over here. The cosine law might be a little bit more challenging to remember than the sine law, but I'm going to write it out. So when we're looking for an angle, if I'm looking for angle F, there's different variations of the formula depending on which one you're looking for. So in this case, I'm looking for angle F. So that means that I'm going to take the other two side lengths. So I'm going to label it first on my triangle. Opposite of angle F is side F. Opposite of angle D is side D. And opposite of angle E is side E. So if I'm looking for angle F, the first two variables in my formula are going to be the other two sides that I have. So D squared, and then I'm going to add the other one plus E squared. And then I'm going to subtract the side opposite of the angle that I'm looking for, and divide it by 2 times the sides that are not opposite of the angle I'm looking for. So notice how D and E appear twice. F, because I'm looking for angle F, F only appears once. So the one that corresponds to the angle that you're looking for is always going to go here, and the other two sides are going to go into this part. Then I'm going to substitute the values that I know. So I know that D is 3.5. I know that E is 1.5. I know that F is 2.9. And then I'm going to divide it by 2 times 3.5, 1.5. BEDMAS, I'm going to do exponents first. I'm going to simplify the numerator and denominator separately. So 3.5 squared gives me 12.25, plus 1.5 squared gives me 2.25, minus 2.9 squared gives me 8.41, divided by, and I'll just simplify the denominator too, or as well, 2 times 3.5 times 1.5 gives me 10.5. Now I'm going to continue simplifying the numerator, so I'm going to enter 12.25 plus 2.25 minus 8.41 into my calculator, and I get 6.09. The 10.5 stays in the denominator. So that's what cos F is. Now there's two ways of continuing from here. The first way is to put this into your calculator and change it to a decimal, or if you want to keep it a fraction, you can. And I'm going to use the inverse operation to find out what F is. So I'm going to bring cos over to the other side and do the inverse. Cos -1, 6.09 over 10.5. Now, depending on your calculator, you might need to do this first, change it to a decimal before you do this step. But in my calculator, I can do it all in one step. So inverse of cos, so shift cos, 6.09. And the reason that I say you might be able to do it in one step is if your calculator is doing the steps as you go, and at this point, if I enter divided by, your calculator might just calculate this part and give you an error, so that wouldn't work. But in my calculator, I can do it all in one step and enter the fraction into the brackets that are in front of cosine -1. And I get 54.5. So my angle is 54.5 degrees. In acute triangle, DEF, side D is 4.9 centimeters, side F is 6.2 centimeters, and angle E is 64 degrees. Find side E rounded to 1 decimal. I'm going to draw a rough sketch of what this would look like. Okay, so this is not to scale. I'm going to label it F. I'm looking if this makes sense to what the side lengths are. Not really, but that's okay. It's just a sketch. F, lowercase f is across, lowercase d is across, lowercase e is across. And I'm going to fill in my known values. I know that side length D is 4.9 centimeters. I know that side length F is 6.2. And I know that angle E is 64. So I'm trying to find E. So whenever you're looking for a side length, we're going to use a slightly different formula. It's actually the same formula, it's just rearranged. So in this case, I'm looking for side E. So I'm going to say, I'm just going to write it underneath. I'm going to say E squared is equal to, now I'm using D and F more than I'm using E because those are my other two values, not the one that I'm looking for. So E squared is equal to D squared plus F squared minus 2DF. So notice how I'm not using E. I mean, I don't even know it, but I'm using the other two sides that I do know. And then I'm going to put cos of E over here. So whatever angle relates to the side that I don't know is going to go over here. Okay, so that's why we have different variations of the same formula, because it just depends on what information you have. I'm going to substitute all my known values. So D is 4.9. F is 6.2, and then I'm going to substitute them here. And I know that angle E is 64 degrees, so I'm going to put that there. Now I'm going to simplify. 4.9 squared gives me 24.01. 6.2 squared gives me 38.44. And in this step, I want you to multiply this out. So 2 times 4.9 times 6.2 gives me 60.76. Now be very careful at this point. Very common mistake is that students will add these two and subtract this one first. But remember BEDMAS. BEDMAS says multiplication comes before addition and subtraction. So I must multiply these first before I go to the next step. Listen to that carefully because I see those mistakes very often. So I need to first multiply these two. Everything else I'm going to write the same way. So when I multiply 60.76 by cos of 64, I get 26.6. Now I can add and subtract and put all of this into my calculator. So 24.01 plus 38.44 minus 26.6 gives me 35.85. That's E squared. I'm not looking for E squared, I'm looking for E, which means I need to take the square root of both sides, which gives me that E is equal to 5.987, so I'm going to round that to 6.0. And I'm going to put a dot here to indicate that I'm rounding.